I am Miranda, 35, and I always believed family came first. That was until last Christmas when my own sister convinced our parents to exclude me from our annual family trip. When I finally stood up for myself, they called me selfish. Have you ever felt like family loyalty only goes one way? Stick around to see how I learned to stand up for myself when my own family decided I wasn't worth including in their holiday plans, then had the audacity to call me selfish when I finally set boundaries. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you've ever had to deal with family drama during the holidays, this story might feel familiar. Hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences that might help you navigate your own family challenges. Now, let's get into how my family betrayed me and how I finally found my voice. Growing up, I believed nothing was more important than family. My parents, Margaret and William, raised my younger sister Cassandra and me with the idea that family always comes first. We were a tight-knit unit, celebrating holidays together, supporting each other through hard times, and sharing in each other's successes. Or so I thought. I'm Miranda, a 35-year-old software development manager. I've worked incredibly hard to get where I am today. After graduating with my computer engineering degree, I put in long hours, took on challenging projects, and climbed the corporate ladder. My dedication paid off when I was able to purchase my own home 3 years ago, a beautiful 4-bedroom house with a spacious finished basement that I personally converted into a cozy entertainment area complete with a home theater system. When my sister Cassandra, 30, and her husband Marcus got married last year, they were struggling financially. Marcus had just started a new position in digital marketing, and Cassandra was between jobs after leaving her role as a physical therapy assistant. They claimed they were saving for a house, but needed some time to build up their down payment. Being the supportive sister I am, I offered them my spare bedroom and basement area at a significantly reduced rent, thinking it would be temporary, maybe 6 months at most. You can stay until you get on your feet, I told them, genuinely wanting to help. Family supports family, right? Cassandra hugged me tightly. You're the best sister ever, Mir. We promise we won't overstay our welcome. That was 11 months ago, and there were still no signs of them moving out. In fact, they had settled in quite comfortably, treating my home as if it were their own, but not in a good way. Marcus particularly had an entitled attitude, leaving messes for me to clean up, inviting friends over without asking, and even using my expensive kitchen appliances without permission. Marcus, could you please ask before using my stand mixer? It was pretty expensive, I mentioned one day after finding it covered in dried cake batter. Oh, come on, we're family, he replied, dismissively. Don't be so uptight about your stuff. These small incidents started building up, but I kept making excuses for them. Family supports family after all. I continued working hard at my job, often putting in extra hours to secure bonuses that ironically helped subsidize my sister and her husband's living expenses. My best friend Jessica was the first to point out the imbalance in my relationship with Cassandra and Marcus. Miranda, they're taking advantage of you, Jessica said during one of our coffee dates. You're practically supporting them financially while they buy new clothes and go out to fancy restaurants. When was the last time they even thanked you? I brushed off her concerns. They're family, Jess. They do the same for me. As December approached, I found myself getting excited about our annual family Christmas trip. For the past 9 years, we had rented a cozy cabin in the Adirondacks for a week, enjoying the snow, playing board games by the fireplace, and creating memories together. It was a tradition I cherished, one that helped us reconnect as a family despite our busy lives. I had already requested time off work, a difficult feat given my project deadlines, and had been setting aside ideas for activities and meals we could enjoy together. I even bought Cassandra and Marcus special matching ugly Christmas sweaters as an early gift, hoping to make this year's trip extra special after what had been a challenging year for everyone. What I didn't realize was that this year, our family, Christmas was about to take an unexpected and painful turn, one that would force me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about my family and my place within it. It was a typical Wednesday evening in early December when I came home from work, earlier than usual. My project meeting had been canceled, giving me a rare opportunity to relax before dinner. As I quietly entered through the front door, I heard Cassandra and Marcus talking in the kitchen, their voices animated with excitement. Mom said the Resort has private hot tubs in every suite, Cassandra was saying, and there's a full-service spa where we can get massages after skiing all day. That sounds incredible, Marcus replied. So much better than that cramped cabin in the mountains. I'm glad your parents decided to upgrade this year. I froze in the hallway, confusion washing over me. Resort? Spa? This didn't sound like our usual Adirondack cabin. I still feel a little bad about Miranda, though, Cassandra continued, her voice dropping slightly. But she'll be fine on her own for Christmas. She's always working anyway. My heart dropped to my stomach. Were they talking about our family Christmas trip, the one we'd been taking together for 9 years? Unable to contain myself, I stepped into the kitchen. What resort are you talking about? Cassandra and Marcus spun around, their faces registering shock at seeing me standing there. Miranda, you're home early, Cassandra stammered, exchanging a quick glance with Marcus. What resort, Cassandra? I repeated, my voice steady despite the anxiety building inside me. After an uncomfortable silence, Marcus shrugged. Might as well tell her now. Cassandra sighed. We're going to Aspen this year instead of the Adirondacks. Mom and Dad found this amazing luxury resort with ski-in, sky-out access. And when was anyone planning to tell me about this change of plans? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Well, Cassandra hesitated, looking uncomfortable. The thing is, we thought maybe you wouldn't be able to come this year. Why wouldn't I be able to come? I asked, confusion turning to hurt. I already requested the time off work. Marcus crossed his arms. Cassandra, just be honest with her. Cassandra shot him an irritated look before turning back to me. Fine. I suggested to Mom and Dad that maybe this year should just be the 4 of us. You're always so controlling on these trips, planning every minute and showing off how successful you are. I felt like I'd been slapped. Controlling? I plan activities because no one else does. And how exactly do I show off? Come on, Miranda, Marcus interjected with a condescending tone. You're always talking about your big projects at work, your promotions, your bonuses. Not everyone wants to hear about how great your life is all the time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The activities I planned were things everyone enjoyed, and I rarely talked about work unless someone asked. This felt like a complete distortion of reality. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hi, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I just heard about the trip to Aspen. There was a long pause. Oh, Miranda. Yes, we were going to tell you about that. When exactly? Christmas morning? I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. Don't be dramatic, dear. We just thought, well, with how busy you always are with work, you might appreciate having some time to yourself this year. Did Cassandra suggest excluding me from the family Christmas trip? I asked directly. Another pause. She mentioned you might want some space, and frankly, sweetie, you do tend to take over the planning every year. We thought a change might be nice for everyone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother was confirming that they had intentionally planned to exclude me from our family tradition, apparently at my sister's suggestion. I see, I said, my voice hollow. And you all decided this without even asking me. Now, Miranda, don't make this into a bigger deal than it is, my mother said, her tone shifting to one of mild irritation. You can use the time to catch up on work. You're always saying how busy you are. After hanging up, I turned back to Cassandra and Marcus, who were watching me with a mixture of guilt and defiance. How long have you all been planning this? I asked. A couple of months, Cassandra admitted. Mom found the resort back in October. 2 months. They had been planning this behind my back for 2 months, while I was excitedly preparing for what I thought would be our normal family Christmas. That night, after retreating to my room to process this betrayal, I called Jessica, tears streaming down my face as I recounted what had happened. I can't believe they would do this to you, Jessica said, outrage evident in her voice. After everything you've done for them, especially letting Cassandra and Marcus live in your house practically rent-free. I keep thinking about all the Christmases where I made sure everyone had a good time, I said, remembering how I'd always gone out of my way to accommodate everyone's preferences. Last year, I even changed our dinner reservations last minute because Marcus wanted to try a different restaurant. Miranda, this is a pattern, Jessica said gently. They take you for granted because you always put them first. Maybe it's time you started putting yourself first for a change. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized Jessica was right. This wasn't just about a Christmas trip. It was about years of giving without receiving, of being taken advantage of by the people who should value me the most. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The morning after discovering my family's betrayal, I woke up feeling hollow. I had barely slept, my mind racing with thoughts of confrontation, hurt, and disbelief. Part of me wanted to lash out in anger, while another part wondered if I had somehow misunderstood the situation. Maybe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe I'd been difficult on past trips without realizing it. I decided to try having a calm, rational conversation with Cassandra before heading to work. I found her in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone while sipping coffee from my favorite mug, the one with "World's Best Sister" printed on it, which now felt like a cruel joke. "Cassandra, can we talk about yesterday?" I asked, pouring myself some coffee. She glanced up, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Sure, I guess." "I'm trying to understand why you'd suggest excluding me from our family Christmas," I said, keeping my voice level. "If I've done something to upset you, I'd rather you tell me directly instead of going behind my back." Cassandra sighed dramatically, setting down her phone. "It's not one specific thing, Miranda. It's just, you always have to be the center of attention. You bought this house. You have this amazing career. And whenever we're all together, everything has to be done your way." "That's not fair," I countered. "I plan activities because I want everyone to have a good time, not because I want control." "Well, that's how it feels," she said, her voice taking on an edge I'd heard more frequently in recent months. "Do you know how hard it is to be your little sister? Mom and Dad are constantly saying, 'Why can't you be more like Miranda? Miranda owns her own home. Miranda got another promotion.'" I was taken aback. "I had no idea you felt that way, but excluding me from Christmas isn't the solution." Marcus walked in at that moment, immediately sensing the tension. "What's going on?" "Miranda's upset about Aspen," Cassandra told him. "Still," Marcus said with an exaggerated eye roll, "don't you think you're being a bit dramatic? It's just one Christmas." His dismissive tone stung. "It's not just about Christmas. It's about being deliberately left out by my own family." "Look," I continued, trying to find a compromise. "What if I joined you for part of the trip? I could come for a few days and then give you all some space." Cassandra looked at Marcus, who shook his head slightly. "I don't think that would work," she said. "The resort is fully booked now anyway. There wouldn't be room for you?" I highly doubted that was true, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was my mother calling. I answered, hoping she might have reconsidered. "Miranda, your father and I have been talking," she began without preamble. "We think you're overreacting about this Christmas trip. Cassandra says you've been making her feel guilty this morning." I couldn't believe it. "Mom, I just tried to have a conversation with her about why they went behind my back." "See, this is exactly the problem," my mother said with a sigh. "You always think everything should go your way. Maybe you need to learn that's not how the world works." "But excluding me from a family tradition without even discussing it with me is okay?" I asked, incredulous. "We're not excluding you," she insisted, though we both knew that's exactly what they were doing. "We're just doing something different this year. Your father thinks it would be good for you to spend some time on your own." I glanced over at my father's framed photo on the bookshelf, feeling betrayed that he wouldn't even speak to me directly about this. He had always been passive, avoiding conflict by letting my mother handle difficult conversations, but this hurt more than usual. After hanging up, I tried once more with Cassandra. "I just found out you've all been planning this for months. Why keep it a secret from me if there wasn't something wrong about it?" Cassandra at least had the decency to look slightly ashamed. "We knew you'd make a big deal out of it." "Like I'm doing now?" I asked, my voice tight with emotion. "Exactly like you're doing now," Marcus interjected, not even looking up from his phone. I was about to respond when I noticed a stack of mail on the counter, including what looked like a credit card statement addressed to Cassandra. The envelope was open, and I could see a charge from a high-end outdoor retailer for over $800. "Is that for ski gear?" I asked, gesturing to the statement. Cassandra quickly gathered up the mail. That's private. You used the money that was supposed to go toward your rent to buy expensive ski gear for a trip you were planning to exclude me from? I asked, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. We needed proper equipment, Marcus said defensively, and it's not like you're hurting for money. That comment was the final straw. It confirmed what I had suspected, but didn't want to believe. They saw me as nothing more than a convenience, a resource to be used rather than a sister to be respected. I think we need to have a serious conversation about your living arrangement here, I said quietly, my decision crystallizing. But right now, I need to get to work. As I walked out the door, I heard Marcus mutter, "See what I mean? Always making everything about money." What he failed to understand was that it wasn't about the money at all. It was about respect, consideration, and family loyalty, all of which seemed to be in short supply in my household these days. 2 weeks before Christmas, I came home from a particularly exhausting day at work. We had been racing to finish a major software deployment before the holidays, and I'd spent hours in meetings trying to resolve last-minute bugs. All I wanted was a quiet evening to decompress. Instead, as I pulled into my driveway, I noticed several unfamiliar cars parked outside my house. The moment I opened my front door, I was hit with the sound of laughter, music, and the distinct smell of mulled wine, a traditional part of our family holiday celebrations. Confused, I made my way to the living room to find it filled with people, including my parents, several cousins, and family friends. My living room had been transformed with Christmas decorations I hadn't put up, and a banner that read "Aspen Bound" hung across my fireplace mantel. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They were having a pre-trip party in my house for a trip I wasn't invited to. Cassandra spotted me first, her smile faltering slightly before she composed herself. "Miranda, you're home early. What's going on here?" I asked, though it was painfully obvious. "Just a little get-together," Marcus said, raising his glass of what appeared to be my expensive bourbon. "To get everyone excited for the trip." My mother approached, giving me an awkward hug. "Miranda, dear, we were going to clean everything up before you got home. We know how particular you are about your things." I looked around at the group, noticing that everyone was avoiding eye contact. They all knew I had been excluded from the trip and were apparently perfectly fine with it. "So, everyone knew about this trip except me?" I asked, my voice carrying across the room, causing a hush to fall over the gathering. "We thought you couldn't make it because of work." My cousin Sarah looked uncomfortable. "That's what we were told," added my Uncle David, glancing at my mother. Before I could respond, I overheard Cassandra in the corner speaking to our cousin Emma. She didn't notice, me approaching as she said, "Honestly, it's a relief Miranda won't be there. All she does is work anyway. Total workaholic with no life. The cabin trips were always so boring with her planning every minute." The casual cruelty of her words stopped me in my tracks. Is that really how my sister saw me? As a boring workaholic? With no life? After everything I had done for her? As I stood there processing this betrayal, I noticed Marcus in my home office, the one room I had specifically asked them to keep out of. He was showing my father something on my computer, my personal computer, and had somehow spilled red wine on my white carpet, leaving a spreading stain that would be nearly impossible to remove. "Marcus," I called out, my patience finally snapping. "What are you doing in my office? That room is off limits and you know it." Marcus looked up, annoyed at being interrupted. "Relax. I was just showing your dad some photos of the resort. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal. You're in my private office using my computer without permission, and you've spilled wine all over my carpet." "It's just a carpet," he said dismissively. "We'll clean it up. Stop making a scene." That's when something inside me broke. All the months of disrespect, of being taken for granted, of bending over backward to accommodate everyone else while receiving nothing in return, culminated in this moment. "Everyone needs to leave," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Now." My mother approached, her expression a mixture of embarrassment and irritation. "Miranda, don't be ridiculous. You're overreacting." "Am I?" I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You all planned a family trip without me, lied to my face about it for months, and now you're having a party in my house to celebrate. How exactly am I overreacting?" "See," Cassandra said to the room at large, "this is exactly why we wanted a break. Everything always has to be about Miranda." Selfish as always, Marcus added, ruining the party mood just because you're not the center of attention. I looked around at the faces of my family members, searching for someone, anyone, who might stand up for me. But they all looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to speak up. In that moment, I had a flashback to all the times I had put my family first, all the sacrifices I had made. I remembered postponing a vacation with Jessica last year to help my parents move. I thought about the countless times I had rearranged my work schedule to accommodate family events. I recalled how I had spent hours helping Cassandra prepare for job interviews, and how I had welcomed her and Marcus into my home when they needed help. And this was how they repaid me, with exclusion, disrespect, and gaslighting me into thinking I was the problem. I want everyone out of my house in the next 10 minutes, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. And Cassandra, Marcus, we need to talk about your living arrangements here. This isn't working anymore. You can't kick us out, Cassandra exclaimed. Where are we supposed to go? I'm not kicking you out tonight, I clarified, but things are going to change now. Please get everyone out of my house. As people awkwardly gathered their things and filed out, I overheard my mother telling my aunt, she's always been dramatic. She'll calm down by tomorrow. But I knew I wouldn't. Something fundamental had shifted inside me. For the first time, I saw my family dynamics with perfect clarity, and I knew I couldn't go back to being the person who always gave without receiving anything in return. That night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet again, I sat, alone in my living room, surrounded by the mess they had left behind, including crumbs ground into my couch and sticky wine rings on my coffee table. I picked up a framed photo of our family from last Christmas, all of us smiling in front of the Adirondack cabin. Had it all been a lie even then? With tears streaming down my face, I made a decision. It was time to stand up for myself, even if it meant standing alone. The day after the party disaster, I called in sick to work for the first time in years. I needed time to think, to plan, and to gather my courage for what I knew would be a difficult confrontation. I spent the morning cleaning up the mess from the party, scrubbing at the wine stain in my office that had already set into the carpet, a permanent reminder of the disrespect shown to my home and boundaries. By midday, I had reached out to Jessica, who immediately offered to come over. I'm bringing lunch and moral support, she said, her loyalty a stark contrast to my family's betrayal. Jessica arrived with my favorite comfort food, Thai takeout, and her boyfriend Daniel, who happened to be a real estate attorney. I hope you don't mind that I brought Daniel, Jessica said as they walked in. When I told him what happened, he thought he might be able to offer some legal advice. Daniel gave me a sympathetic smile. Jessica's been telling me about your situation. I'm really sorry you're going through this. Over lunch, I explained everything in detail, from the Christmas trip exclusion to the party in my house, and all the months of disrespect leading up to it. I just don't know what to do, I admitted. Part of me wants to throw them out immediately, but they're still family, and I don't want to be cruel. You're not being cruel by setting boundaries, Jessica insisted. They've been taking advantage of you for almost a year. Daniel nodded in agreement. From a legal standpoint, since they've been paying you rent, even if it's below market rate, they're technically tenants. That means you can't just change the locks without notice, but you can start a formal eviction process. What would that involve? I asked. Since there's no formal lease, they're month-to-month tenants, Daniel explained. In this state, that means you need to give them 30 days written notice. You don't need a reason, just the notice. And what? If they refuse to leave? I asked, imagining the drama that would ensue. Then you file for formal eviction through the courts, Daniel said. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. We spent the next hour drafting a formal notice, making sure it was legally sound but also firm. I decided to give them until January 20th, well after the holidays, to find a new place and move out. It seemed more than fair given the circumstances. What about right now, though? I asked. I can't imagine living with them for another month after everything that's happened. Jessica exchanged a look with Daniel. You said they're going to be out all day tomorrow at some pre-trip shopping thing, right? I nodded. They had mentioned something about it this morning before they left for work. Then here's what I think you should do, Jessica said, leaning forward intently. The plan was straightforward, but decisive. The next day, while Cassandra and Marcus were out, I would change the locks and security code on my house. I would pack up their essential belongings, things they would need immediately, like clothes and toiletries, and leave them in boxes on the covered porch, along with the formal notice giving them 30 days to collect the rest of their things and find new housing. It seems so harsh, I said, though I knew it was necessary. Harsh would be throwing all their stuff out on the lawn, Jessica pointed out. You're being more than reasonable by packing their essentials and giving them time to get the rest. Daniel added, just make sure you document everything. Take photos of their belongings before you pack them and make an inventory list. That way, they can't claim you damaged or lost anything. The next day, after confirming that Cassandra and Marcus had indeed left for their shopping trip, I put our plan into action. I called a locksmith who came and changed all the exterior locks. Then I reprogrammed the security system with a new code. Next came the difficult part, packing up their immediate necessities. I carefully selected clothes for a week, toiletries, medications, and personal items, documenting everything, with photos as Daniel had suggested. I placed these in sturdy boxes and left them on the covered porch, protected from the elements. Finally, I taped the formal notice to the top box, which stated clearly that they had 30 days to arrange for the removal of their remaining belongings and to find new housing. As I completed these tasks, I felt a mixture of emotions, relief and empowerment for finally standing up for myself, but also guilt and sadness that it had come to this. My family had pushed me to this point, but I still couldn't help wondering if I was doing the right thing. By late afternoon, my phone started ringing incessantly, my parents' names flashing on the screen. I let the calls go to voicemail, not ready to face their reaction yet. The voicemails started piling up, each one more frantic and angry than the last. Miranda, what have you done? Cassandra just called us crying. Call us back immediately, my mother's voice demanded. This is completely unacceptable behavior, Miranda. We raised you better than this. My father's usually calm voice sounded strained. After the 5th call, I decided to listen to Cassandra's voicemail. I can't believe you would do this to us, she screamed into the phone. We're family. You've changed the locks. Where are we supposed to go? Marcus is talking about suing you for illegal eviction. You're going to regret this, Miranda. Despite the threatening tone, I stood firm in my decision. I sent a single text message to my parents. I've given Cassandra and Marcus 30 days' notice as legally required. Their essential belongings are packed on the porch. They are welcome to stay with you until they find their own place. I need some space right now and won't be answering calls for a while. Then I blocked their numbers, needing peace from the barrage of guilt-tripping messages that I knew would continue. As evening fell, I watched through the window as Cassandra and Marcus pulled into the driveway. I saw their expressions change, from confusion to shock as they tried their keys in the new locks. Marcus pounded on the door, yelling my name, while Cassandra discovered the boxes and the notice. Her face contorted with rage as she read it, and then both of them started taking pictures with their phones, presumably as evidence for their threatened legal action. Finally, after more pounding and yelling that I steadfastly ignored, they loaded the boxes into their car and drove away, presumably to my parents' house. That night, alone in my quiet house for the first time in nearly a year, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. I had taken back my space, my boundaries, and most importantly, my self-respect. It wouldn't be easy going forward. I knew there would be more confrontations and guilt trips to come. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally putting myself first. The days following what I now thought of as the lockout were a tsunami of reactions from family members. My phone was flooded with texts and voicemails from extended family who had apparently heard a very one-sided version of events. I had blocked my immediate family's numbers, but cousins, aunts, and uncles I rarely spoke with suddenly had plenty to say about my actions. How could you put your own sister out on the street right before Christmas? Texted my cousin Rachel, who I hadn't spoken to in at least 2 years. Your parents are devastated. Is this really how you want to treat your family? Wrote my Uncle Thomas. The messages ranged from concern to downright hostile, but they all had one thing in common. They were based on Cassandra's version of events, which painted me as an unreasonable tyrant who had suddenly snapped and thrown them out without warning or cause. After 2 days of this, I decided to unblock my parents' numbers, thinking perhaps a calm conversation might be possible. It wasn't. Miranda, we raised you better than this, my mother said the moment I answered. Cassandra and Marcus are staying with us now, and she's been crying for 2 days straight. How could you be so heartless? Mom, did Cassandra tell you why I asked them to leave? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She said you got upset about some party and overreacted completely, my mother replied. Miranda, everyone has parties. It's not a reason to throw your sister out of your home. That party was to celebrate a family trip I was deliberately excluded from, I reminded her. A trip you all lied to me about for months. That's different, she insisted. And besides, they've been perfect tenants otherwise. I almost laughed at that. Perfect tenants? They've been late with rent multiple times. They've damaged my property, and they've completely disrespected my boundaries. The party was just the last straw. Well, your father and I think you're being completely unreasonable, she said. We've had to postpone our Aspen trip now because of all this drama you've created. Of course, that was her concern. Not the fact that her daughters were at odds, but that her vacation plans were disrupted. I'm sorry your trip is postponed, I said, not feeling sorry at all. But my decision stands. They have 30 days to collect their things and find a new place. And what about Christmas? She demanded. Are you planning to spend it alone out of spite? I hadn't actually thought that far ahead, but her accusatory tone made my decision easy. Yes, I think I will be spending Christmas on my own this year. I need some time to think about what family really means to me. After hanging up, I felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. This would be my first Christmas away from my family. And while part of me mourned that, another part felt relieved to be free from the obligation and the pretense that we were a happy, functional family. The next day, I received a more unexpected call from my cousin Emma, the one I had overheard Cassandra talking to at the party. Miranda, I just wanted to check in on you, she said, her tone genuinely concerned. I've been hearing all kinds of things from Aunt Margaret and Cassandra, but I wanted to hear your side. I was touched by her reaching out and gave her a brief summary of what had happened, including the excluded Christmas trip and the months of disrespect leading up to the party incident. I had no idea, Emma said. At the party, Cassandra just said you couldn't make the trip because of work commitments. I should have known something was off when she was bad-mouthing you to everyone. She was doing that to everyone, not just you? I asked, surprised at the extent of Cassandra's betrayal. Yeah, she was telling anyone who would listen that you're a control freak who thinks you're better than everyone because of your job, Emma admitted. I didn't believe it, which is why I wanted to call you directly. Her honesty was refreshing. Amidst all the accusations and guilt trips. Thank you for that, Emma. It means a lot. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing, she said. They were taking advantage of you, and the way they went behind your back with the trip was really messed up. After speaking with Emma, I felt slightly less alone in my stance. It gave me the courage to reach out to my workplace friends, some of whom I had grown close to over the years, but had never really shared my personal struggles with. To my surprise, when I finally opened up about what was happening, my coworkers were overwhelmingly supportive. Family or not, no one has the right to treat you that way, said Alex, our team lead, and changing the locks was actually pretty restrained considering. Barbara, our department admin who had become something of a maternal figure to me at work, was particularly outraged on my behalf. Honey, I've been married for 35 years and raised 3 children. Family isn't about blood, it's about respect and love. What they did shows neither. As the holiday season progressed, I found myself dreading the thought of Christmas Day. Despite my brave words to my mother, the idea of spending the day completely alone filled me with a profound sadness. Jessica and Daniel had invited me to join them at his parents' house, but I felt uncomfortable intruding on their family time. One evening, as I was decorating a small Christmas tree I had bought for myself, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Daniel standing there with a thick folder. Sorry to drop by unannounced, he said, but I wanted to give you this in person. The folder contained printouts of tenant law in our state, a formal response to any potential legal threat from Marcus, and a personal letter from Daniel explaining that I had followed all legal requirements and was well within my rights to issue the 30-day notice. Jessica mentioned that you were worried about Marcus's threats to sue, Daniel explained. I wanted you to know that legally, you're on solid ground. They don't have a case.